Welcome to another edition of the Nightly News. How you doing this evening, Ted?
I'm doing great, Keith. Very happy springtime around the corner to you.
Can't wait for turkey season. You know what? Saw something in the news recently I thought you might be interested in. I know you're residing down in Texas now. I saw that AOC, the darling of the Democrat Party, was down in Texas actually campaigning in a Texas House race. And, she's a pretty brilliant gal. And she said, and I'm going to quote this, Ted, "If we flip Texas, we flip the country. Texas turning blue is inevitable. The only question is when," end quote. What's your take on the brilliant AOC's prophecy about turning Texas blue?
And I actually feel sorry for her. And I even feel sorry more so for the people who were conned into voting for her. Bottom line is I am a Texan because I demand freedom. And Texas is a great state, not quite as good as Florida and not quite as good as South Dakota because of the great Governor Kristi Noem, the great Governor Ron DeSantis. But we are working hard to make sure that we fortify against the encroachment on that Texas spirit and that Texas, I remember the Alamo freedom. Unfortunately, Keith, I would like to be celebratory and joyous in sharing with you that we are not to be tread upon. Unfortunately, the self-inflicted curse of apathy is alive and well in Texas. We discovered that there's an entire army of families who don't vote. And that's what AOC and the Marxists and the leftists and the America haters are banking on, is that apathy will facilitate the destruction of America and destruction of Texas. Because as goes Texas, Keith, she's right. As goes Texas, goes America. Remember the old colloquialism, California, everything starts in California. As goes California, goes America. Well, I give you the feces and needles and homelessness and exploding crime rates in all the cities of this country. So that colloquialism has turned out to be true. And believe me when I tell you, if Texans don't vote, God, family, country, Constitution, remember the Alamo, individual freedoms, private property rights, taxation, accountability, law and order, if Texans don't show up to the polls and fight back against the Beto O'Rourke's and the Sheila Jackson Lees and the embarrassment of the Ann Richards legacy in this state, then I'm afraid this ignorant socialist AOC, her nightmare might become true. So here's a big shout out to Texans. Register, vote, stand up for what you believe in, because San Antonio isn't Texas anymore. Dallas isn't Texas anymore. Houston isn't Texas anymore. Austin isn't planet Earth anymore. We have to be very, very careful, very, very aggressive, and ultimately diligent and vigilant against the Marxist wave that is destroying every place where apathy allows it to happen. So her horror story might come true if Texans don't actually function. You can't just think like a Texan. You have to act and vote like a Texan.
You know what, Ted, you and I are very active, and you're the national spokesperson, and I'm the founder of Hunter Nation. And what we found out regarding the number of hunters in the great state of Texas that do not vote, I mean, it is an astronomical number that if even just a small part of those God, family, country, self-reliant, hunting, trapping, fishing Texans would go to the polls, they would control Texas politics. What's your words to your fellow hunters down there that just aren't voting?
Well, not only here at Nightly News will I give the truth, logic, and common sense crowbar some exercise, but I do it at campfires all year here in Texas. And I talk to my buddies here in Texas. So many of them really represent in their belief system God, family, country, Constitution, Bill of Rights, 10 Commandments, Golden Rule, law and order, all that radical stuff. They live that, but they don't vote for that. And if you don't vote, then the Marxists consider you an ally. So I, like you, Keith, God bless hunternation.org. We have finally prodded and cajoled, beseeched, begged, and scolded the hunters across America, but primarily here in Texas, Go to hunternation.org. Be sure you're registered to vote your core values. We'll never tell you who to vote for, but if you believe in God, family, country, law and order, hunting rights, the hunting lifestyle, ranching, farming, private property rights, law and order, you know who doesn't represent that. And you know who does represent that. But if you're not registered and you don't actively vote, the enemy of America considers you an ally. So everybody, I hope you join me at hunternation.org. Make sure you're registered and flex the most important power, most important weapon for freedom, the vote.
You know, AOC's really thrown the gauntlet down to Texans. And I encourage all of you in Texas, if you're not registered or if you wonder where you can vote and the timeline to get registered and when the next election is and all the details you're going to need to know, go to huntthevote.org, huntthevote.org. And really, this challenge, Ted, it's thrown directly at Texans, basically saying we own you, which I just don't believe that's true. I think good Texans will go to the polls, but it's really a nationwide challenge that I hope all of you listening will take to heart. If you're not participating, go to huntthevote.org, sign the pledge, say, hey, look, I'm going to get active. Don't set this one out. And this is from the local school boards, which we now know are so desperately important, all the way up to the House and Senate seats that'll be in play this November and then on into the presidential election in 2024. Huntthevote.org. Thanks, Ted. I'm assuming you're going to hold the Alamo down there in Texas for us. Thanks for all you do.
Yep, I'm a real Texan. I'm the Motor City madman, but I'm an American first.